No whispers in the hallways of old Hollywood were ever quite as dangerous as the ones that followed Maureen O'Hara. Behind the dazzling lights, designer gowns, and glowing red carpets was a world far more ruthless than the public ever imagined. A world where silence was survival, and speaking out was an act of war. While most played the game and hid their scars, O'Hara eventually made the boldest move of all. She named names. And when she did, the names were not just shocking. They were terrifying. Maureen O'Hara wasn't just another starlet. She was a force. Her piercing gaze, flaming red hair, and unmatched elegance made her unforgettable on screen, but it was her strength off-screen that truly set her apart. Hollywood loved to promote its leading ladies, but it didn't love women who refused to be controlled. O'Hara was one of those few who resisted being shaped into someone else's product. And because of that, her career became a battlefield of manipulation, betrayal, and punishment disguised as business decisions. Among the 5 powerful men who left indelible marks on her life, one stood out above the rest: John Ford. He wasn't just any director. He was a titan of cinema, responsible for masterpieces like The Quiet Man and How Green Was My Valley. He discovered O'Hara and elevated her to fame. But what the cameras never saw was the stormy relationship behind the scenes. Ford was brilliant, but also deeply troubled. His affection for O'Hara was real but twisted by power, insecurity, and pride. One moment he would praise her, the next he would humiliate her publicly. He would berate her over tiny disagreements, stage rehearsals designed to break her spirit, and once drunkenly propose to her, only to retaliate when she refused. Their connection was intense, complicated, and at times cruel. And O'Hara endured it, because she knew that in Ford's hands, she could rise. But at what cost? This complicated power dynamic wasn't unique to Ford. It echoed across the studios, embedded in a system where control mattered more than talent. Louis B. Mayer, the all-powerful head of MGM, was another name O'Hara would later reveal. When Mayer offered her a contract, it wasn't just a business deal. It was a golden trap. He promised glamour, fame, and protection. But when she turned him down, everything changed. Roles disappeared overnight. Friends vanished. And whispers followed her wherever she went. "No one says no to Mayer without being punished," she heard more than once. Mayer wasn't just a producer. He was a kingmaker. But his empire was built on fear, manipulation, and submission. O'Hara's refusal was an act of defiance, and the punishment was swift and silent. She turned to independent films. Not by choice, but because the big studios made sure there was no place for her anymore. Still, she held her head high. She never gave in, even when it meant years of struggle and dwindling income. While others followed the rules to stay in the game, O'Hara rewrote them, even if that meant playing alone. Then came Howard Hughes. A billionaire, a genius, a man obsessed with flying and film, and with women he believed he could own. For a while, Hughes seemed captivated by O'Hara. He sent gifts, made promises, lavished her with attention. But when she refused his advances, everything changed. Just like with Mayer, offers began disappearing. Projects fell apart without reason. People stopped calling back. Hughes didn't just lose interest, he retaliated. Behind his charming smile was a calculating mind that used wealth and influence like weapons. O'Hara would later describe how producers suddenly backed away, scripts dried up, and some even admitted they were warned off by Hughes himself. There were rumors of surveillance, veiled threats, and whispered deals. To say no to Hughes was dangerous, and O'Hara paid the price. Yet somehow she kept going. She refused to let them break her. Jack L. Warner was another giant in the world of film. The Warner Brothers empire was massive, and early in her career, O'Hara had signed a contract with him, thinking it was her big break. But she quickly learned that the contract was more like a cage. Warner saw actors as assets, not artists. He forced her into roles that didn't suit her. When she objected, he threatened her career. If she left, he said, she'd be blacklisted across all studios. She was trapped, forced to choose between her dignity and her future. But instead of quietly giving in, O'Hara fought back. She went public with her story. She spoke to the press. She exposed Warner's coercive tactics and demanded her right to control her career. It was a bold and dangerous move. And though she eventually won her freedom, she didn't walk away unscathed. Her name was dragged through the mud, her relationships in the industry strained, and her reputation questioned. Yet, even in the chaos, she never stopped fighting. She believed that her story might open the door for others. And then there was the unnamed fifth. A shadowy figure, one of the most powerful media tycoons of the time, who operated not through fame but through fear. He was known for controlling press coverage, studio decisions, and careers, often without ever being seen. O'Hara met with him once, privately. He offered her a role that could change her life. But the offer came with unspoken demands. Comply, and the world would be hers. Refuse, and she'd vanish from it. She chose to walk away. The consequences were brutal. Suddenly, she was portrayed in the press as difficult, unstable, even promiscuous. Former friends stopped calling. Tabloids ran story after story questioning her character. And then came the photo, a fake, doctored image suggesting she was emotionally unstable on set. It was shared everywhere. At first, no one questioned it. But years later, experts proved it was manipulated, a smear campaign to destroy her. Even with the truth out, the damage had already been done. O'Hara had lost years of her career and the trust of the public. But she refused to be silent. She stood before reporters and said, with clarity and pride, "I will not trade my honor for the role. If I have to leave, I will leave with my head held high." That moment became legendary. It wasn't just a rejection of exploitation. It was a declaration of self-worth in an industry that thrived on erasing it. Her courage became a quiet anthem for countless women who had no voice. For every star who suffered in silence, O'Hara showed that standing up, even when it costs everything, is possible. Her story wasn't just about surviving Hollywood. It was about changing it. Even if the system didn't fall overnight, her refusal to be controlled sparked something that would live far beyond her screen legacy. Each man in her story, John Ford, Louis B. Mayer, Howard Hughes, Jack L. Warner, and the unnamed tycoon, represented a different form of control. One used affection as a weapon. Another used fear. Some used money, contracts, or the press. But all shared the belief that power meant ownership. O'Hara proved them wrong. She was never anyone's possession. And in the end, that might have cost her roles, but it gave her something far more important: her soul. Her defiance, her suffering, and her bravery laid bare the true cost of integrity in a world built on submission. She transformed from a Hollywood beauty into a voice that couldn't be silenced, even when the industry tried everything to bury her. Maureen O'Hara didn't just leave behind films. She left behind a legacy of resistance, strength, and the quiet power of saying no when it mattered most. If her story moved you, if it made you think about the untold truths behind the silver screen, then please like this video and subscribe to the channel. There are more voices like hers that deserve to be heard, and together, we can make sure they never fade into silence.